Well, not that he could ever really be great, you understand.
Oh, is that so? And in the name of St. Bridget, why not?
Well, all of the really great cornet players were Irish.
You shouldn't hang me on a hook. My father hung me on a hook once. Once.
A, B, C. A always B, B, C closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Fire! Fire!
Fire! I am the law.
You are the what?
I am the law. From Judge Dredd.
That reminds me of the old
the
Stooge
law.
shorts when they would put alum in everybody's drinks. Everybody would be
Right.
And that's Hi, I'm Mark.
I'm Tom.
And we are the
Cinemaniacs.
So did you have a good Halloween?
I had a fine Halloween. How about you?
I did.
I
Should
got
I
to
tell
walk
you
around.
and everybody in them about it?
Oh, what? Is it another? It was another trip, wasn't it? Of course. What else is there to
wait,
do?
I didn't mean to cut you off. You were
No,
saying.
that's all right. No.
Oh, well, since we're here.
So tell us.
So, an old friend of mine, Ian Judge, who graduated from the Keene State College Film Program.
Yes, and he lives just down the street from my son.
Does he really?
Now, yes.
Oh, that's great.
Actually.
Ian is the manager of the Somerville Theater, which is one of the best theaters that I know of, period. Art house, first run, live theater, beautiful, huge place. They did a special Night of Edgar Allan Poe. Well, I was calling it Poe-nuff. It was Jeffrey Combs live on stage doing one-man show based on Edgar Allan Poe,
Wow.
as though he was there giving a dramatic reading of his works and talking about his life.
Okay.
Directed by Stuart Gordon, who directed Jeffrey Combs in Reanimator, amongst
Yep.
many other things. So that was interesting. That was the first part of the evening. And then the second part of the evening was a 35mm screening of Roger Corman's Mask of the Red Death, which is
Wow.
the most artistic of the old Corman, Poe, Vincent Price AIP movies, on a giant screen. So I was kind of so-so on the live play.
Okay.
I think it was a little... I don't know if the play was supposed to be funny or if it was more comedic than I wanted it to be, or if the audience was reading things into it.
Okay.
My impression was that it was like Foster Brooks does Edgar Allan Poe. And I'm like,
That could be bad.
Guy drank himself to death. Not all that funny.
Right.
So I wasn't too into that, but it was interesting. The movie, on the other hand, was amazing. I love those old Poe AIP films. To see it on the big screen really adds a whole other layer to them. And this was the one that Corman actually went to England to make it, and he had a lot more money to work with in it. So it didn't seem... I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, 3 or 4 years before this, he made Little Shop of Horrors on
Right.
2 dime store
Yeah, you think
sets.
that of Corman,
And this is
and-
this huge, lavish thing. So if anybody hasn't seen Mask of the Red Death, I would highly recommend renting that. It's on DVD. It's on Blu-ray
I'm
now,
sure,
too.
I think it's on Blu-ray, yeah.
So that's what I did on Halloween. Did you do anything interesting, or did you turn off the lights and hide from the kids?
Well, my wife is the one who always hands out all of the stuff, so I walked around as Admiral Adama with
Oh.
my son, who is a Kerbal Knot, so we were walking around getting candy and freezing to death. So.
Oh, you
But it
just
was
were
fun.
walking around the house.
Yeah, he's in 8th grade, so we figured, Walter, next year, you got no business going trick or treating when you're in high school, so this could be it.
This was
So
your farewell voyage?
That was it. Yep. So now I have no reason to dress up.
Oh, there's always a reason to dress up. Anyway.
Yes.
Well, that sounds cool.
It was fun.
I haven't engaged in the trick or treating thing in a long time. We always, actually, that's what I do. I turn
Right.
off the lights at the front of the house and watch a movie in my bedroom or something, and hope
Right.
nobody knocks on the door.
Well, and my tradition, although I lost my big screen, so I have a little screen and we watch Dracula,
Oh,
the
cool.
Todd Browning Dracula, and so that's always fun. You have people standing around. They don't stand around and watch the entire movie, fortunately, but they at least
right.
get a screen something off the side of my house. So
Cool. Speaking of Todd Browning, that will tie into something we're talking about
it will, as a matter of fact.
at the end of the program.
And that's why I said that, really. To tell
So
you the truth.
this was an interesting week for us. We base what we talk about on this show on, in theaters, what Keene Cinemas is playing new, and what Video Headquarters is getting new on video, and some other things we throw in for video. Keene Cinemas didn't get anything new this week.
Nope.
So I would say off the bat, if you are going to Keene Cinemas this week, Fury, For me, Fury, St. Vincent, and Gone Girl probably would be what I would recommend.
Yeah, Gone Girl's still there, and I still think it's certainly worth watching, and I liked Fury. Wasn't quite so high as you were on St. Vincent, but if you haven't seen it, certainly worthwhile.
So you went above and beyond this week.
I did.
Above and beyond the town line, and you went and saw something.
Yes, not to be unfaithful, but went out and had a chance to see, and I'm sure eventually we'll come here, but Jake Gyllenhaal is he's unemployed, but he's got a strong work ethic, and he'll be happy to do pretty much anything you want to have him do until he finds out that he can be an independent videographer and get some interesting news footage. It's just a question of how far will Jake Gyllenhaal go to get the right footage when he's a night crawler. Now this is clearly, and I'll make this quick since you didn't have an opportunity to see it, and this was my extracurricular.
You have twice as long to talk because
activity.
I don't have anything to say.
Well, there we go. That might work out well. I like Gyllenhaal. This is completely a Gyllenhaal vehicle. I don't know if he's going to get a nod for this. It's a very uncomfortable, and he's very much a sociopath. And performance is terrific, but it's very understated. And so I don't know if the Academy will pick up on that necessarily. So, but he's always wonderful, and he's very good in this as this clear sociopath who will do anything. And you saw a lot from the. I'd encourage everybody, if you're interested in seeing this, don't watch that trailer in particular again, because you become so familiar with the moments that it's almost a letdown when they occur, and they're spread throughout. But Rene Russo is very good. He is really good. This is clearly his film. Very uncomfortable. I'll be interested if movies at CheshireTV.org. If anybody sees this, obviously you and I are very into video, and I'm as a cinematographer, interested in composition and everything. So I particularly enjoyed his learning how to get a good shot, and then he starts manipulating the shots and things like that, and it becomes one of those questions of how far will you go. But I'd be interested to know, if anybody wants to email in, that there are times where he's breaking the law and just always pushing the envelope. And in as much as he's doing wrong, I mean, clearly that's the question, is how far would you go to do this, and would we go this far? But as he's doing all these things, I'm thinking, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. What a great shot that is. And so we're really excited, and I don't know if it's us or just me, but we're really excited, even though he's doing these horrible things, to get the great shot. So it was very engrossing, very intriguing, tremendously well done, great performances throughout, but very uncomfortable. It's certainly, Nightcrawler isn't one that I'd say is, you don't come out and you're cheering or anything like that for the character, but very, very well made, and I bet we're going to probably see a nod for him when we get to the Academy Awards next year.
Well, good. I really do want to see this. I hope this comes to one of our local theaters before it hits video. If nothing else, I'm sure we'll see it on video at the headquarters. So I didn't see it, so I have nothing to say other than that.
And that's, again, nothing else. We always thank our friends at Keene Cinemas, and I apologize for leaving. But really wanted my young son and I wanted to go see this, so we did that a little extracurricular.
That's cool.
But moving on to whatever they might find at Video Headquarters this week.
Right. We thank our friends at Video Headquarters for what we're about to discuss. First up, ready for this one?
I'm ready for it.
Oh boy, are they ready for this one?
No.
Okay, so it's Death on the Nile meets Multiplicity, as Agatha Christie's Belgian detective is cloned into multiple versions of himself in Hercules. I'm sorry, that intro, I was thinking of something else. So
it sounded interesting, though.
Yeah,
so
well, that's a different one. Maybe we'll try to cover that one next
we'll
week
do
if
that
we have
later.
time. So all of the shots in this trailer that you saw of him fighting creatures, those are a 90-second montage at the beginning of the movie.
Pretty much.
Actually. This film, I give this film props, or proppers, as they say, for taking a different approach to the Hercules story.
Okay.
They set up him doing all these amazing feats of strength and fighting monsters in that intro, and then they say, well, forget about that. That's the legend. This is the reality. And this film tries to say this is the Hercules was not a superhero. He was a real guy, very strong man. He had a band of adventurers who traveled with him, who each had a specialty, and they kicked ass and took names, basically, in this time of world history.
Since they hadn't made bubblegum yet. So.
No, how can you be all out of bubblegum when bubblegum doesn't exist? They would chew, birch bark or something. So basically, you're setting it in a more realistic setting. So if you're going into this based on the trailer saying, oh, he's going to fight a Hydra.
Right.
No, he's not.
Watch out.
He's going to fight a giant boar. Well, technically he does, but it's 90 seconds at the beginning of the movie. So this film has Hercules as a tortured soul who is accused of killing his family, or he's away on a quest or a campaign. His family is killed, and that weighs heavy on him. So there's a lot of tortured Hercules. Right. And there's a bad guy, and he's got his band of adventurers and all that stuff. And I didn't find it terribly compelling. You go to see a movie like this for the feats of strength and the action. And to me, the action, it wasn't the worst example that we have these days of unwatchable action. It was just very indifferently presented. Like I rewatched some of this movie last night actually, and there's this big scene where they're fighting this group of people who, you want to call them zombies, but they paint themselves green, and they're just really wild looking guys. And it's this huge siege, and it's just kind of messy. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, people are shooting arrows, but it's not presented in such a clean way that I'm really impressed by what's going on, so I'm just kind of bored. Funny enough, I was watching some Hong Kong action movies in my free time this weekend.
Yeah, okay.
Boy, do they know how to show you some action. So then when I'm rewatching this American CGI fest, I'm like, this is just boring.
Right.
So I think if you like action movies in general and you're not terribly demanding, or if you like The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, this may be okay for you. But if you like the old Hercules movies, I don't know if you'd be into this. And if you're looking for something above and beyond, this doesn't quite get there. Right.
I agree completely with everything you say. Not terribly engrossing. I did appreciate the opportunity, and I think he's not gonna win the Academy Award for Best Actor, but I like him a lot too, and I think he can. And I think he's trying to do more, take more roles where he actually shows that he can act, because I think he'll be able to do that. This is not the one. It tries, it does all that at the beginning. Here's the legend of Hercules, but he's really just a guy. Interesting concept, but that doesn't hold out for an hour and a half after all of that. There's all of this intrigue as to, there's some real evil bad guy who's manipulating all of these devices behind the scenes and controlling everything, and that's pretty boring. His band of marauders with whom he works, I think, are fun. They clearly spend, this is the 5 minutes we're going to spend on this character, and here's the 5 minutes on this character. So this whole thing felt a little kind of cookie cutter. Acceptably, I think, particularly for the reasons that you like. If a great vast expanse, so it's like a wonderful tour of the area, but ultimately, I was not engaged in this with as much as I like Dwayne Johnson. I think I agree that Hercules is not one of the ones that's highest on my list of his work.
Maybe best for preteen boys, young
boys.
boys?
I mean, there's enough action going on and stuff, but other than that, we've seen the story, we've seen this a zillion times, and so nothing terribly new.
I think if you want bare-chested Dwayne The Rock Johnson action with a sword and long hair, Scorpion King is a much better choice. I remember that as being a fun movie,
and there's
humorous and good
there was the one where he pops his pecs back and forth too.
Journey to Mysterious Island.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that one was fun.
That was a lot of fun. So over to you.
Yes, moving on then to another big action adventure flick. Strangely enough, the other side. You thought you knew the story of Sleeping Beauty, but unbeknownst to you, there's more going on behind the scenes, because Angelina Jolie, I can't say our characters' names today, Angelina Jolie proves that she's got maybe a little softer side, because she is Maleficent.
And they're all dead.
So my whole family watched this. One thing you mentioned is our want. We were talking about this beforehand as the trailer was going on, and this isn't a prequel. This is like The Other Side and almost a re-imaging of it, because you find out my problem with this in the theaters, and I didn't like this nearly as much in the theaters as I did on video. I really ended up liking this a lot more, primarily because of Jolie. She's so wonderful. And boy, the first time you see her in all of the get-up and everything like that, was, oh my God, she was born to play this role. And she just sinks her teeth into it, and she's just delicious. Although the performances are good, but there are a lot of moments, and if you're a real fan, not that I was a huge fan of Sleeping Beauty, but I knew it pretty well. And as I'm watching this, I'm going, wait a minute, that's not how it worked out. Wait a minute, that didn't happen. And I'm thinking, you're Disney, you got to know your own movies. And they come up with a nice explanation for that at the end. So if you haven't seen it before, don't be so fixated on that it's not exactly like your father's. This isn't your parents' Sleeping Beauty. That said, then, I really ended up liking this even more than I did in the theaters. Performances are great fun. It's lighthearted toward the end, certainly. Boy, at the beginning,
It's dark.
And my wife's watching this, and people are dying, and everybody's being attacked, and it's grim and ugly, and it's like, this is not a Disney film, is it? And it was. So very dark, very grim in that respect, and I think probably scary for little kids.
I think I remember when I saw this in the theater, hearing some little kids, not necessarily crying, but whimpering a little because how dark and,
Right.
what do they call it? Peril, scenes of peril
Right.
at the beginning.
Well,
of the movie.
I didn't. I tried to look on the casting. I heard a rumor. One of our friends at Video Headquarters told me that they had to recast some of the younger children's roles and actually hire one of Jolie's kids because she was so scary.
She plays the young Sleeping Beauty.
Really?
When Angelina Jolie picks her up, it's this little blonde-haired girl.
Right.
They had said they did. I don't know why they did that.
Right.
But the little girl was not afraid of her in the makeup because that was
Right.
Mommy's. Mommy's
Right.
just got a silly hat
Mommy's
on.
got some silly
and
makeup
when you
on.
watch
That's
that
funny.
scene with that in mind, it's like that's obviously what this girl is seeing. So it's kind of cute to watch
Right,
it with
that's
that
funny.
in mind.
So I didn't, and I looked on the credits because, who knew? Was it Pitt? Was it Jolie? Was it somebody else? Because
Yeah.
they've adopted a zillion kids. But that's sort of fun to watch. But I really ended up knowing that this, and they have a nice explanation of why things are different, but it comes at the very, very end. And it's fun as to how they explain that. So as I was watching this in the theaters, that really detracted from me. It took it away from me. I was able to just sit back and just really enjoy the really nice-looking imagery. It's dark for kids. I mean, dark as a subject matter, but really lots of fun. And I really ended up enjoying Maleficent a lot more than I did in the theaters.
It's got a really nice look to it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love it in the theater. I was so-so on it. Partially, it's just because I'm so tired of the prequel. Patton Oswalt did a great routine on an album a few years ago where he was talking about the Star Wars prequels. Okay. And it's like, George Lucas is saying, you want to get some ice cream? You like ice cream? Yeah. Well, here's a bag of rock salt, and here's a bag of ice. He's like, no. I don't want to know where the stuff I like comes from. I just want to like the stuff I like. And that's kind of how I feel about these movies. It's just like the story you've never heard before because we wrote it 6 months ago. So part of that was my beef with that kind of thing.
Right.
But to put that aside, it's visually really impressive. Just in terms of the sets, the costumes, how the makeup, and then some of the visual effects that come in. Like there's the green swirling smoke and the purple lights. It's being pretty colors, So I think if this looks interesting to you, you will probably like it. I agree that it is not for very young kids because I think it would be kind of scary. Although in the home environment, you can hit the fast forward button and the scary stuff is gone in a flash. So I think it's worth checking out. Whether you know the Sleeping Beauty story or not. If you do know the old cartoon, it's interesting to see that in the flesh, really well rendered.
Yes.
And if you don't, it's a brand new story.
Not that they asked me, but one of the things that I would have done had I been producing this was they have these big battles. This is all about kind of the fairies versus the humans, and that's one of the things that sets it up. And so the king brings his army, and they get into this big battle, and Maleficent kind of rules the fairies, and they just the fairies just kick human ass all over the place. And although it's not bloody, I think people are clearly killed. Mm-hmm. And one thing I thought they could have done to make it more Disney-esque and make it a little less dark was not so quite clearly kill them, but just like scare them off or brush them back or something like that. So if I have one thing I would have preferred, that would have been it. But otherwise, I still, I think I'm probably going to go out and buy this because I enjoyed it as much as I did. And as you say, it's so pretty.
It is. This is probably, I'm sure this is the top renter of the week.
I would think so,
I
yeah.
think everybody's interested in this. So speaking of Disney,
yes.
And that's not like one of my forced segues because this is another Disney movie. From the creators of the Cars world and franchise comes a sequel to the spin-off that was about planes. This time, our intrepid hero goes off to train with planes, it rhymes, fire and rescue. Hi.
How touching.
Isn't it?
Yes, wasn't it, though?
So I consciously avoided seeing the first Planes movie.
Yes.
I was able to dodge it left and right when it was in the theater and on video when we covered it the first time around. So I was not looking forward to seeing this one in the theater.
Right.
And the film starts off and there's rectal jokes. Somehow you can still work rectal jokes into a film about machines. And then our hero goes off to this training school for forest firefighting, and the alarm bell sounds. And AC/DC's Thunderstruck starts playing, and an eyebrow goes up, and I'm like, pardon? And then there's this kick-ass fire and rescue sequence that I, in my head, believe probably showed me pretty accurately how you fight a forest fire,
right.
You only using planes that can talk, to the tune of Thunderstruck. And the movie had me from that point on. And I thought it was funny.
Okay.
I enjoyed the voice actors that I recognized, like hearing Stiller and Mira, the old '60s comedy team, and Ben Stiller's parents,
right.
as an elderly couple of, I don't remember what their vehicle was, Winnebagos or something like that, was funny. And usually recognizing voice actors in an animated film takes me out of the movie, but
right.
in this I kind of enjoyed it. And overall, I liked it. And it might be because I thought I was going to hate it and I didn't really want to be there.
Okay.
But I had a really good time with it. So I would recommend Planes, Fire, and Rescue as a movie that if you're renting it for your kid, you may not be disgusted to sit through it. You don't have to necessarily run out of the room when it starts.
Right. Sort of a backhanded compliment. I'd agree with that. When the first Planes came out, I was like, why do you have a spin-off like this? And I found these characters, although you're right that I recognize Dane Cook. He's one of my favorite comedians, trying to be an actor, but just stick with comedy. So it was fun, and it didn't take me out recognizing those voices, and that added to it. I found the characterizations and the kind of cutesy little attempts at creating identifiable characters in these films, I found that to be a little bit too forced, and I couldn't get over that much. I do think the animation is just spectacular. It's getting to the point where, I mean, it's not reality. They don't try to make it look like that, but some of it is just stunning.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and so that was really nice. I agree. I had the same feeling about how to fight forest fires, and that seemed
it really
to be,
feels
it's like a training video.
It's a highly respectful
Yes.
ode to firefighters and people who fight forest fires and things. And again, didn't expect that out of a talking plane movie.
Right. So given that, there was certainly enough to keep me going. I think you're right that even if you're not into it, even if you find the cutesy characterizations kind of forced, there's going to be enough keeping you going. Just of the animated Disney films, the Planes and Fire and Rescue just aren't top on my list.
Third tier Disney.
Somewhere down in there.
There's a great joke in this movie for me that I didn't expect because I thought it was firing way over the heads of anybody in the audience. The character who's like the drill sergeant, or the guy who runs the Fire and Rescue, is voiced by Ed Harris, and he's an old grizzled veteran. And you find out his deep, dark secret is that he used to be on a TV show in the 70s or 80s, and they pop in a videotape and they watch a clip of this show. And I'm not going to give away what it is, but it had me laughing out loud in the theater. And they went so far as to have one of the actors on the show that this clip is spoofing voice one of the characters in this clip.
Oh, I didn't know that. You'll have to tell me about that later.
I'm talking way around, not saying what it is. But,
yeah, don't give it away.
But anyway,
that's funny. That's funny.
That's Planes, Fire, and Rescue.
Okay. Well, not quite so lighthearted, but a brutally tortured man shows up in Hamburg in the Islamic community and has the opportunity to cash in on his father's debts, but he decides that not really quite what he wants to do. And surrounding all of this, Philip Seymour Hoffman, in one of his last roles, plays a detective on a police force, strangely enough, who wants to try to track down where some of this money is going to help all of the nefarious Islamic people. And Hoffman, I'm having trouble discussing all of these things. Bleeding into it, Hoffman then turns out that he's looking for a most wanted man. There you go. Work into it. So knew very little about this going in, which is usually what I think we like to do. I keep thinking, and I was surprised that Seymour Hoffman was in this, because I keep thinking that The Hunger Games was going to be his last film, and I think he died during that, so I think it probably is going to be. So knew basically nothing about this. This film starts so unbelievably slowly, and we're following all of these characters in this languid pace, very little music. And so, but something about it kept me going. We see some faces. You were talking about that. Some familiar faces, and it's very interesting how they get this going. Having known nothing about this, about halfway through, it really started sucking me in. I ended up really liking this movie, and it was pulling me into it. And I'm thinking, man, the machinations of this and how it plays out. It's like a Jean Le Carré film. Strangely enough, he wrote it.
It is.
So either I'm good at picking him out, or he writes his good stuff. I ended up really enjoying this. I have just emotional issues with the ending, because whether it ends on a good note or a bad note, I won't discuss that necessarily.
Yeah.
But throughout all of this, I just thought this is a smart film that talks about current topics. It gets to the point, and this isn't giving anything away, where one of the biggest moments of the film and the most intense moments of the film is a guy signing his name.
Right.
And I was I was on the edge of my seat. So without saying a whole lot, if you've seen anything about it, Rachel McAdams, Robin Penwright, certainly Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is just wonderful in this. Willem Dafoe. It's got a great cast. I just can't say enough. If you like slow-paced but gripping spy thrillers,
Slow but not boring.
Right, not boring. I just thought this was just terrific.
Yeah, I like this. This is I say to people, you can say something is a spy movie or something is an espionage movie.
Okay, good point.
Espionage, I think, conveys what this is.
Right.
Because you say spy movie, oh, somebody's jumping a motorcycle onto a train, they've got a wristwatch with a laser in it.
It's Tom Cruise.
No. This is like a detective story. This is investigation, detective, mystery. This guy shows up in Hamburg, and the German CIA, FBI, what do you want to call him, anti-terrorist unit, thinks he's shady. And a lot of this movie is figuring out, is this guy shady or not, and what does he want?
Well, and we don't know really either.
No, and you don't really know, and none of this is a bad thing. It's just really interesting, and just seeing the procedures they go through, and how everything is very matter of fact and leisurely paced, which is fine. You get a nice sense of the city, you get a nice sense of place, and it's just a good, intelligent, serious spy movie, which is rare. And this is advertised as, from the writer of Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, which I thought was boring.
Yeah.
The movie version recently, I had to shut it off. It was just going nowhere. And I know some people liked it. So I think if you like that, you'll probably like this. If you didn't like that, this is a better shot at being enjoyed by you at home. And it's so rare. This was released sort of as an art house movie. This was played at the Colonial in town. So this is not aimed at the same audience that goes to see Mission Impossible or a Bond film. But there is an audience out there who is willing and ready to receive an intelligent movie.
I hope so, yeah.
That's exciting, where a contract negotiation or a contract signing is the highlight of a film.
Right.
And you don't feel disappointed. Is his pen going to run out of ink? Is he shaking a little bit? Lick it and rub it again? So yeah, I thought, what was this called? Oh yeah, A Most Wanted Man.
Right.
Was very good.
Every now and then we'll, and I'm hoping this will get some nods, because every 3 or 4 years there'll be a smaller film that I really feel like championing. Not that anybody really cares, but I think this is really the one.
This is this year's Closed Circuit?
That? Right, yeah, Closed Circuit was quite
good.
This, I think, far better than that. So yeah, I just really ended up liking this. Really made my week.
So let's see in a second whether the next film made Tom's week. What do you do when you and your coal mining friends, it reminds me of a Python sketch. Coal mining is a wonderful thing, Father, but it's something you'll never understand. What do you do when you and your coal mining friends find yourself trapped in the shaft? You get the shaft, only you can't get out of it again. You hold your breath, bide your time, and hope that nothing sinister lies beneath. Speaking of Disney films.
Yes, isn't it though?
So this was a film. I always
preface
this,
as a matter of fact,
where I get these movies from. That's not important. So this film, it starts off, this guy's going to retire. Jeff Fahey's, he's 1 week from retirement.
Exactly.
If you're in a movie and it's 1 week from retirement, start picking out a headstone.
Right.
His daughter decides she's going to accompany him down into the mine to see what it's like, because she wants to do that. And something goes wrong, and they're trapped down there. So then it becomes, what do you do? There's this really interesting chamber that's sort of like the cave-in chamber, where there's provisions and oxygen, and they're supposed to be able to be safe there until help comes to get them. And then weird things start happening. Is it sabotage? Is it the ghost of... Is it a crazy old miner? Is it like My Bloody Valentine? Is it a ghost? Is it a creature? for the rest of the
Because
movie,
there's this history of a team beforehand,
Had been
decades earlier had been lost, right?
it's got this great atmosphere going down in there because it's a claustrophobic. I mean, I was saying just before the clip ended, I love people trapped movies.
Right.
There's a movie called Frozen about people trapped on a chairlift. I love. There's a movie called 247 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius about people trapped in a steam bath, sauna.
Right.
There's Gravity. I mean, people in a confined location trying to survive is interesting to me. So that's what I went into this for, and ultimately I was not satisfied because what is going on down here? They don't really answer that. They don't do a great enough job of conveying what's going on at any given time. It's just kind of a lot of chaos, and you keep wondering until the very end what's going on. And then at the end, you do and don't get an answer to that. And ultimately, for me, I'm a huge fan of The Descent, the original Descent.
I agree.
And that movie did the trapped underground and something weird's going on much, much better than this, to the degree where I'm just like, I'd rather just watch The Descent again than this. So I can't really recommend Beneath unless you just want to rent a horror movie that's, I mean, it's passable. It didn't make me mad, but I was just disappointed because I really was looking forward to this and it was kind of bland.
I'm a little more down on it. What I did come away with was this. It looks great.
It
I mean,
looks
there's
like
some
a big
serious
budget
production value behind this because it looks really good. Performances are real solid. The actors are really good in it. My problem is, again, it gets back to all of these weird things start happening. They seem truly paranormal at some point and truly supernatural at another point, and no definitive explanation works out for me. As I recall, one of the first horrible scenes that occurs off camera. We're following these people down a mine shaft, and they hear something horrible going on. They go back, and somebody's been killed. And I'm, what? Is that what's going to happen? So, for me, this was a scene like that. Something horrible happens off camera, or somebody is walking down, and it's completely black, and it's a great opportunity for atmosphere. But then they're going to turn their heads with the big light on, and somebody with a big old scary face is going to kill them or something. So equivalent to stuff jumping out at you. So when it digressed into that, it really kind of started losing me. So I guess I went away feeling a little bit, to use your term, shafted, because there wasn't a logical explanation for it. It had some nice moments where they are in this little area and they realize, oh my God, the oxygen is going to run out. They got to go out and try to get some more oxygen. So fun moments like that, but it just didn't come together for me.
I think maybe my biggest disappointment and why I didn't really like this is because I didn't want this to be supernatural slasher movie.
Okay.
I wanted this to be a survival tale, and maybe that's my fault. Because thinking of Gravity or these other films, it's scary enough. There's this scene where the girl is going down in the mine and she turns around and she sees daylight for what might be the last time, and they go down, 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 and you can just feel the walls closing in on you. And you've got so much built-in, for some people like me, so much built-in anxiety around the idea of being underground that could smash you at any time, that the whole idea of ghosts or monsters or slashers to me was just like, get that off my plate.
They had a lot, and I agree with that. I'm a scuba diver, and so there were several moments like that felt very much like that. They start panicking and they're needing oxygen and things, and that feeling that you're just trapped down there. What are you going to do? And I think you're right that I both was looking forward to that from the film, although I kind of figured it was more supernatural. But that's when I thought it worked the best. Forget the supernatural stuff. When you're dealing with these characters who are panicking and having to figure their way out of things, that's when I think this movie worked the best. I wish they'd stayed with that instead.
So, speaking of B movies,
yes,
we have one more.
We have one more, and way back at the beginning of vaudeville and even earlier, two really famous sisters, Violet and Daisy Hilton, were among the biggest moneymakers, extremely talented, beautiful young little girls. But strangely enough, they had some issues, and their lives get more and more complex because they are bound by flesh. Whoop,
so, you don't want to hear what we were just
Not that it
talking
was
about.
really funny.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, this was one that you sent my way. How did you come across this?
I get press releases from various video companies saying, here's something you could talk about, and the things that look interesting, I say, yes, please, and they kindly send them along to us. So this is out now.
Right.
This and the last one we talked about are out now on video. And I am a big fan of the movie Freaks. Todd Browning, film about a sideshow, nefarious goings-on, as director of Dracula, made in the 30s. And the Hilton sisters are in that. So I knew who they were from that. And I also remember when I was a kid collecting video at the dawn of home video, it was expensive to buy videotapes.
They were.
But there was always a budget rack at Kmart that were usually trashy movies and public domain movies. And it was on a spinner rack and they were like $10. And one of those tapes I always wanted but never got was Chained for Life, which was the movie that was the movie that the Hilton sisters made that they starred in. So I knew who they were. So when this documentary came out, I thought, that's interesting. I don't really know their story. So their story is very interesting.
Yes, it is.
And they're a forgotten footnote in American or international entertainment, but they were very big for a while. And to me, maybe what's even stronger than the Hilton story for me in this film is that you get a story of the carnival. You get the history of the carnival in America and of like vaudeville and affordable entertainment for the masses. And that's really interesting. I mean, that could be its own documentary, I think. So you have some experts who speak on that, and you see where the Hilton sisters fit into it. So I think this would be interesting to people who don't know who they are. I think if you do know who they are, it's like, wow, there's this whole history that I didn't know about. Very sad history, really. And if you don't, it's just like, oh my God, a pair of Siamese twins were like international superstars for a while. The downside to this film for me is that I felt like, excuse me, I spat. I get excited. I'm frothing at the mouth about this movie. The downside was that it suffered from a lack of having enough footage to use. There's not a ton of footage on the sisters or stills, so you're seeing the same pictures and imagery again and again and again and again. And after a while, you just get, A, you get tired of it, or B, I was losing my sense of chronology because I was seeing these pictures from earlier in their life again when they're talking about later things. And I mean, that's not the fault of the filmmakers. There's a finite amount of imagery in film. I think you probably could have seen a bit more of the people who were being interviewed in the film to make up for that lack of original footage, because it really is very repetitive. And some of it it's just like, we're going to zoom into the picture, now we're going to zoom out of the picture, now we're going to flip the picture, now we're going to move it from the right, and then we're going to move it from the left. And I've seen other documentaries recently that do that. They couldn't get enough footage to really pad out the feature length. That aside, this is really interesting. This is and fun. I mean, it's a sad story, but it's kind of fun too. It's told, with a sense of humor. And I guess in the end, with the flaw aside, I really kind of enjoyed Bound by Flesh. I
think I'll agree that I certainly enjoyed the film. There was a moment you talk about getting into the history of the carnies, and I do seem to recall like a 15-minute segment where we completely forget about the Hilton sisters, and we're just into that. I started this, and I forced my way through. And I'm glad that I did the first half hour, which I felt that I was assaulted by the production technique, because it was shot and then a shot and then a shot and then a shot and then a cut and then talk to this guy and then talk to that guy and then show this picture for like half an hour. It was like beating me over the head, and I was going to have a panic attack. This was so frenetically cut.
It felt like an introduction that was never ending.
Right, absolutely, and so I really think, and I do ultimately have to fault the producers of this, both for, you're right, exactly, seeing the same shot. I mean, I think I saw the same shot of the two of them standing outside this little row of cars because they, posed to sell some cars. I think I saw that shot like 10 times. And not just because, we're film critics and all that kind of stuff, but the American audience is as much as I like to beat them over the head for being stupid, we're pretty visually savvy, and so we are going to pick up on that. And I think that is a serious drawback to this film. Another part of the frenetic pace of this, and I keep coming up with stuff that I don't like about this, because I really did end up liking this. I don't know what necessarily it says, but it's an interesting story to find these beautiful young women, and you're constantly wondering why, and of course you have to. This would be a great double feature with Stuck on You.
Actually, it would.
The comedy about it, but they end up talking about almost the same thing, to where I guess and this started, they were born in like 1898 or something, and so certainly surgery techniques back then wouldn't have allowed them to be separated, apparently. But even as they got to a point where they could have, they decided not to be. So there's a lot of interesting information. We hear them audio tape recording of the actual women. And so as they get into that, I think this is a really interesting film. I think early on the production technique, the way they made this film, was a real detriment to it, and I didn't like it. But I really ended up finding it both a fascinating story and ultimately pretty enjoyable.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's all we have this week.
Yep.
That's with Bound by Flesh. our reviews come to a close.
There you go.
And with 5 minutes left.
It's amazing.
We could sing a song.
And next week, I'll talk for like an entire hour probably on. I'm really hoping it's not going to be bad. Interstellar. Been waiting for Interstellar for years and years.
See, I don't get my hopes up for anything.
No,
I try to go
I
in
do for
at
this
zero as much as I can.
We'll find out.
So yeah, I think it's pretty much guaranteed we'll be talking about Interstellar.
I think so.
Perhaps Big Hero 6. No, they're totally going to get that. It's a
Yeah,
kids
I
movie.
think you gotta get
So
Big
it's
Hero
Interstellar
6.
and Big Hero 6. Anything else is gravy beyond that.
Right.
Interstellar, 2 hours and 49 minutes. So
Wow.
hopefully we'll have time in the weekend to see something else
Yep.
beyond that. So I guess until then, if we may.
We should.
movies@CheshireTV.org if
There
you
you
want
go.
to email us with questions, comments, or recipes. I don't cook, but he might.
That's my name.
Hey! Boy.
We have 5 minutes, so we're kind of dancing.
If there was a bulb over my head, it would be a very dim one. I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we're the Cinemaniacs.
Cinemaniacs.